Going to be getting into Kenobi. So the Kenobi series, of course, is based on Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is a nice legacy character in Star Wars. Ewan McGregor is back after all these years of playing the character, all the way back. Last time he appeared in the role was all the way back in '07 in Revenge of the Sith. And this series takes place 10 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith, where the Jedi Order was destroyed by Order 66 from Emperor Palpatine. And at the beginning of this series, you'll see that they'll give you a nice recap. So if you haven't seen the prequels, they'll introduce you about the whole relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan and what happened and the whole fall of the Jedi and a quick little brief little three kind
They
of...
almost make it tolerable.
Yeah, like a quick little abridged 3-minute, 4-minute version of the entire kind of prequel trilogy there, summed up there, all the way into the beginning of this episode where you see the Order 66, you see younglings being trained, and then you see the stormtroopers descend upon the Jedi Temple and kill them, and that starts off the series. So you see that after Order 66, like when most of the Jedi were killed off, a lot of them, there's still a few remaining that have kind of scattered, been kind of scattered all over the galaxy. Still being hunted though by stormtroopers, but mainly also by the Inquisitors. The Inquisitors are kind of these dark side Force users trained up by Darth Vader, meant to kill the Jedi. And there's still kind of some that's still trying to fight the good fight, but mostly ultimately being hunted down and killed. One kind of Jedi that you see here in this series opening up here that you see kind of made it was one of the Safdie brothers. The Safdie brothers, I think his name is Benny Safdie. Is the one that's in here. I loved him. He was in Good Time, and also he was in directed Uncut Gems. I love Good Time. Him and his brother directed that movie. It's one of my favorite movies of the last 20, 30 years, Good Time, with Robert Pattinson. Absolutely love that movie. And they also directed Uncut Gems, which also was kind of one of my favorite movies of the year. It came out with Adam Sandler. So here, Benny Safdie's here as kind of a Jedi on the run. I'll talk about his character a little bit later because it kind of gets into some of the issues I have kind of with Star Wars a little bit. But he's in here as kind of one of the Jedi on the run who encounters Obi-Wan Kenobi that he encounters. And you see kind of Kenobi who is living on this planet Tatooine, who is, doing the best he can, kind of can of, doing what he was kind of tasked to do, looking over the child of Luke Skywalker, who is now with his aunt and uncle, Uncle Owen, who has come back, Joel Edgerton, who's come back to play the role. He played him all the way back in the prequel trilogy as well, which is nice to see him. And he has, he says, this is my duty, this is my mission. And he's kind of, been kind of this, living in solitary, kind of solitude. Now like a butcher, giving up the complete Jedi identity to remain in hiding, to stay safe, and to keep also his mission safe, of looking over Luke Skywalker. So with this kind of series of Kenobi, I know a lot of people kind of with these Star Wars shows maybe a little burnt out. I know a lot of people may be hugely disappointed with what they've done with a lot of the Disney stuff that they've done with Star Wars. I just kind of go
honestly, I think on the Disney Plus side, the only real disappointment is something like Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Because it's just at least in the Disney Plus era, after, after the Skywalker trilogy kind of shit the bed. We've kind of moved on more or less from that. And they're taking some of the best stuff from at least that era and expanding on it and more. Like, we're getting another season of Mandalorian next year. That's been very well received. The Book of Boba Fett was but the best parts of it were all Mandalorian. And we're getting a return of what is widely regarded as the best thing about the prequel trilogy, which was Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Which, when I saw the prequel trilogy, that's the main thing I appreciated, was Ewan McGregor in it. And it's funny now seeing, these kind of actors come back to play these roles, because also Hayden Christensen is this, back as Anakin. And it's kind of, funny to hear them talk about it, Obi-Wan about his experience, Ewan McGregor about his experience playing Obi-Wan. And just when he talks about of like, yeah, doing those movies was kind of hard because of the reaction that we
Mm.
got, and we had to do two more movies after that, and it was kind of brutal after that. And then especially Hayden Christensen, who really got beat up,
Yeah,
and
yeah, and seeing Hayden Christensen in other films that he's stuff like this film Shattered Glass, where he is incredible in.
yeah,
It just goes to show that it's not really it wasn't really his fault that his performance turned out the way it did. It was more on the fact that I don't think George Lucas knows how to write natural sounding dialogue.
yeah. When you really
No.
now that we've been so far removed from the prequels now. Now you can really look back on Golden. Yeah, I mean, the actors talk about it, and you look at this like, yeah, we were on.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's when you make Samuel Jackson and Natalie Portman look like
Liam
bad
Neeson.
actors, and Liam goddamn Neeson.
Liam
That's
Neeson
not on
almost
the-
retired from acting because of the first movie. He thought, oh, I guess I'm just this bad. I guess maybe I should retire.
Yeah,
It's like, no, it's not you, buddy.
Yeah, it's like when you make Natalie look like a bad actor. That's on you, buddy.
yeah. So you see kind of him now kind of being embraced by the fandom, and you know what I mean, kind of welcome back. And I saw he did one cute little interview with like a kid. He was dressed as Darth Vader, and he says, "Could you?"
That was
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cute.
adorable.
Yeah, and he says, "Okay, well, yeah, I teach you little moves," and they did a little lightsaber thing, which is cute. You know what I mean? Then afterwards, he strangled the kid with the Force. You know what I mean? So it ended kind of, yeah.
Hey, old habits die hard.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But yeah, I thought that was a nice little cute little interview. So it's nice to see Hayden Christensen, who, like he said, that was also kind of a a lot of people have, because I think even the actor who played Jar Jar Binks, I mean, I think even he was like,
Ahmed Best never worked again after that trilogy.
Yeah, and I think he said like he received so much hate. I mean, he was like really depressed. Like he was suicidal. I think he said at one point. Yeah. So I mean, to kind of see them kind of now come back in these roles, and I think Ewan McGregor, who's coming back as this character, coming back as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Obi-Wan Kenobi is one of my favorite Star Wars characters. So that was really nice when they announced the Kenobi series. Now. Probably asking, so how is this one? So they dropped the first two episodes, which I think was very good, because the first two episodes are kind of like its own little mini kind of story here of kind of really kicking things off. So it was very good that they kind of did the first two episodes of really introducing you to everything, and the situation and the mission.
Yeah, the first two episodes, they kind of act as like their own little mini film. It's establishing the stakes of the series. It's reintroducing some of your characters, establishing where Obi-Wan is at the start of it, and establishing our main threat, which are the Inquisitors.
Yeah. And I'll get into one of the Inquisitors, Riva, who you see kind of here, who's like the main Inquisitor. It seems like you're following here. With her, I feel like a lot of stuff they do with her, she overacts a bit. Where they said like, okay, in this scene you're mad, you're angry, and then she kind of has one mode where she looks.
No, you're mad. You're angrier.
And then she does a lot of things where she just really furrows her brow and really just looks really mean and try to like almost snarl.
Yeah, and she's played by Moses Ingram, and I think for me that worked because I think a lot of it is emphasizing that a lot of the Inquisitors are like Jedi that have turned to the dark side and have just gone insane, because you get a little bit of what it took to become an Inquisitor in games like Fallen Order. There's an entire flashback sequence where you see the sheer amount of torture that it took to get them to become an Inquisitor.
Yeah. That's a good point. I didn't see it from that kind of perspective before. That's an interesting point. But yeah, so some of the stuff with her I think was a little kind of overacting a bit. And I think also kind of you see kind of the main kind of plot of this first two episodes is Obi-Wan trying to get more warmed up to getting more involved, because you see kind of he's been beaten down. He's like kind of like an old dog almost. He kind of almost looks like the dog from Seymour from Futurama almost. You know what I mean? Where it's just like he's just been beaten down. It's like damn.
He's a guy who's lost everything in the Clone Wars, seen his best friend and brother turn to the dark side and murder a lot of the Jedi Order, and they even have that line. It's like, hey, we need to fight. It's like, we already did. We lost.
Yeah, he's like, it's over, it's done. Yeah, we lost. Yeah, and you could see, he's just kind of been, beaten up by that. And also, people have been remarking by the fact that of how is this Obi-Wan going to turn into the Obi-Wan we see. In,
it's like in 10 years, he's supposed to look like Alec.
Yeah, which I mean,
I'm like,
give him a gray
I don't
beard.
give a shit. I don't give a shit. Just go put Ewan McGregor in old man makeup, and I'm.
It's actually funny because Ewan McGregor right now, he is 51 years old. So if you did 9 years later, which is, what A New Hope would be, he'd be 60. And then Alec Guinness, when he played Obi-Wan in A New Hope, he was 62 years old. So he would be around the same age. It's just that.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
It's just sorry, but Ewan McGregor, he's just aged too well.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem. Is that people back then, it's like. It's funny.
I mean, good problem to have. Good problem to have, but
yeah, I mean he's just aged great, I guess, because yes, yeah. So that I mean he would. So if you did a 9 years, he would be about the same age as Alec Guinness when he first played Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah,
interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, to kind of see that in this series, I thought it was kind of very good. In this first episode, introducing the Inquisitors as this threat, and then having Benny Safdie, who is the first kind of Jedi they encounter, and you see how they kind of operate. It's very much, like what the Empire has always been an allegory for the Nazis and everything like that. Very much of them kind of hunting, you know what I mean? You see that, like, kind of reminiscent of things like that. Even there's one scene that's even, they string him up. They string poor Benny Safdie up and everything like that. Like something you'll see at, like, Jojo Rabbit, you know what I mean? I thought that...
I mean, it's still not as bad as how he got done in a Good Time, but
yeah, I mean, he didn't run through a plate glass window full force, but yeah. So I thought that was kind of nice, very harking back to those type of things they have, with the kind of stuff with the Empire, and I think it goes in, like I said, with Benny Safdie who comes in here. It goes into kind of some of my issues with Star Wars. Not to say he's bad, but just I think some of the script here is bad, where a lot of the kind of some of the actors feel very stilted or feel very flat. And I don't know if you guys saw that as well in here, but a lot of that I thought felt kind of... Dusk, what were kind of your thoughts on the series there?
We haven't talked about the other half of this series so far and what character it includes. So I'll keep that. We want to keep that still a secret. That's fine.
No, we can. We can do that.
But yeah, I guess overall, Ewan McGregor, he does a good job with what he's given. There's a nice little moment. It's the only moment that made me chuckle. Was in the first episode. He's talking to a Jawa. Jawa comes and shows up, and he's like, "Hey, I had this thing that you wanted, a model craft." Which, if you noticed, it's one of those simple fighter things that Luke actually mentioned that you can fly on and shoot the womp rats that are no bigger than a thing. It's like one of those sand speeder or whatever gliders. I forget the model number. And he's like, they don't make them anymore. He's like, all right, I'll pay you 50, 75, whatever. Oh, you have a little vaporizer trouble. And he's like, yeah, I'm missing parts, so you keep stealing it. Oh, and he gets, here you are. I found a part just for you. And he goes, if you're going to sell me back the same thing that you stole, could you at least clean it at a courtesy? And the Jawa just pauses for a moment and goes, cleaning costs extra. And it's just like all right, fair enough, you little bastard. That's a little moment of a chuckle. I'm like, all right, that's actually kind of clever. That worked, and that was very an Ewan McGregor. That was a very Obi-Wan thing to say. I could totally have seen Alec Guinness saying the same thing. My friend, if you're going to sell me the same thing, whatever, you should have the courtesy to clean it.
If you're going to sell back the parts you steal, can you at least clean them?
Exactly. Can you at least do that? That is a courtesy. So those parts work. Everything else, I think, doesn't quite fit for a multitude of reasons. I don't like the Inquisitors are an interesting idea, but I do think the character of Reva is a little over the top, especially when we don't know much about her character, and she's so dogged, determined to find Kenobi, and I'm gonna get him, and you're like, I don't even know you, I don't understand why you're okay. That's fine. That can be revealed later, but that's okay. But it does feel like she's putting too much into her acting, and then there's other characters who are a bit more stilted and pulled back, and so it kind of leaves this mismatch of who's playing what. It's fortunate that Ewan McGregor just has such a natural charm to him that he's able to just kind of play a character even naturally. Even though I think this Kenobi doesn't quite fit with how Kenobi acts in the original trilogy, but that's just something you're just gonna I'm just gonna have to accept that this isn't quite the same character as those original trilogies, and just accept that.
Do you think?
I think a lot of that is intentional. I think this series, I'd say miniseries, because who knows if there's going to be another season of this. I think this series is about Obi-Wan becoming that Alec Guinness character, because where we ended up at the end of Revenge of the Sith is like, nah, this guy, for one, he's going to age like 60 years in 20, and second, he's not the Alec Guinness character at the end of Revenge of the Sith. And here we get a much broken, beaten down Obi-Wan, reluctant, who's like that hero's journey. It's the refusal of the calls to action. And this series is about him becoming that character, and also for shaping the perception of how one character sees Obi-Wan versus another. We haven't gotten to yet.
So, Dusk, you mentioned that you don't see how this character is very much related to the original trilogy. Do you think this character is very much, reminiscent of the prequel trilogy, Obi-Wan? Or I
think, unfortunately, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, seeing the connection there, because this is Ewan McGregor playing this kind of same part, of him playing his Obi-Wan from the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, I think that's unfortunately always been an issue with this, is the prequel trilogy never felt quite connected to the original trilogy. It never quite melded and never felt consistent. And to me, consistency is a very important thing when telling a story. And it's always been one of my main problems with how the prequel trilogy, and how even in the extended universe, how that was dealt with. There's a lot of things I didn't like. One thing that gets brought up that I was hoping they would maybe address, and maybe we get a cameo for another character, but I knew they were never going to do it, because in the original Return of the Jedi, Luke asks Leia at one point, "Do you remember your mother very well?" And she goes, "Yes, I remember my mother. She died when I was very young, but I always remember her being very forlorn and strangely sad. I never know, whatever." So that implied Luke and Leia's mother was alive during that time, and she died later. The end of the prequels kill her off, and that always bothered me. I'm like, why would you put that in there? Why would you try to make that connection if you just immediately kill off that character?
It's almost as if George Lucas didn't have any plans to make a prequel trilogy when he was writing.
Exactly. But even still, you have a room full of writers. You can figure that way around. I could do it in half a second if you really gave me. So, to go on Nick's, to add on to what Nick said from the perspective of another character, I'm just going to get out of the way. Half of this is about Kenobi, and the other half is about Kenobi being called to action, first refusing and eventually going for it, which is where Leia is a little girl. Princess Leia gets involved, and he gets involved as she's kidnapped at one point. We see a little bit of Oregon. We get to see what it was like, and wow, the Empire didn't hit it hard at all. It was pretty great. Everything looks pretty fantastic, except for that whole blowing up the planet thing that comes later. But hey, it's doing pretty well now. Jimmy Smits came back to play Senator Organa. That was kind of nice. They even mentioned the Senate, which was a nice little thing. I'm like, oh yeah, the original trilogy, there was the whole Senate thing. I'm glad they're the remnants of that. I'm glad they're still bringing that up. My problem comes later when they even say, "Oh, well, you're well, everyone knows that you're adopted." They wouldn't have known that. how like that kind of defeats a lot of the purpose in there. That would have changed so much by her knowing that ahead of time. She doesn't even realize that fact until much later. And who is Jimmy Smits gonna tell? And they're gonna know that at all. Like at anyone else, they're just gonna believe that it would have been his wife's kid, or how it should have been, which was Natalie Portman's character, and then she had the kid, and then they got married as a political marriage, and no one's gonna say anything wiser because they were already in the Senate together. But it just felt like a reason to have a character and a reason for things to kind of happen. At least on that front. What do you guys think? What do you think about that aspect of it?
So
Especially about the child actor.
Me, the child actor, I think she is kind of overacting, but getting a good performance out of a child actor,
that's difficult.
More often than not, it's going to be a shot in the. But for what, for a child actor, I was expecting much worse. I grew to like that character the more I saw her interact with Obi-Wan too. Because the first episode she was kind of bordering on that, overly precocious, like annoying little shithead kid, which thinking about it, she's Anakin and Padme's daughter, so yeah, that makes sense.
That checks.
That checks out.
So like you bring up Princess Leia, she's in this as a little girl, which also kind of, I guess, tracks with the timeline, because if this is 9 years later of A New Hope, Princess Leia and
she'd be 10.
She'd be 10. And
then, 10 years before A New Hope.
So she was like 19. Princess Leia's supposed to be 19 in A New Hope.
Yeah, 19, almost 20.
Yeah, so it tracks with kind of that. So in this you see kind of his call to action of getting back into, being the hero, being the Jedi that he was. And you kind of see when he's kind of working as like a butcher, where he sees people being abused, he wants to say something, but he knows he kind of shrinks, which I thought was good, kind of acting just physically from Ewan McGregor, being that guy of like, I really want to do something, but I can't do anything. I want to say something, but I can't. Of kind of having that beaten kind of dog kind of effect, I thought was really good. And then in here you see that Princess Leia gets captured by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You know what I mean? She gets captured by them. And
guess what? She gets taken, and they are not gonna give her.
Yeah. So you kind of say, which is Flea. I'm starting to see him in some more stuff. He was in that movie. What was it? Queen and Slim. I saw him in that as well a little bit. So
he's in a lot of stuff. He was in Queen and Slim. He was Baby Driver.
Yeah, I'm starting to see. Yeah,
he wasn't that.
Yeah, so I'm starting to see him pop up in some more stuff. So good for him. But yeah, so she gets kidnapped, and then the Organas, they call on Obi-Wan to kind of come and help rescue him. And he goes, I can't do it. I'm not the man I used to be. And even eventually Jimmy Smits shows up at his place, you know what I mean, at his little, Fred Flintstone house.
His little cave.
Yeah, his little cave.
I was thinking,
why don't you have a door on there?
No, but I actually thought about that. And I'm like, no, that tracks. That's from the OT trilogy. That is a hideout you would have. And especially in a desert climate, you would want something that has breathability. That you can kind of close with fabric at night to keep the cold air out, but to have something not obstruct you during the day.
Yeah. So yeah, that is from like you say, good, nice original trilogy. So Jimmy Smits even comes personally to him and really asks him to kind of go in there and help save his daughter and save him being kidnapped. The little girl, I think I think a lot of stuff with her. A little too overly precocious, a little too overly, even smart, I think, because there's even a point where he goes to rescue her, and, something happens where she's like, oh, but they're not here for me, they're here for you, they're tricking, which was, I think, a big leap in logic, a big leap to conclusion, because it's like, even if it was an adult, I don't think even an adult would even leap to that conclusion.
Yeah, you're just like, the only question I would have at that point is like, they know you're here?
Yeah.
That would be like the only thought. It's like, oh, wow, they know you're here. Crap, we need to hide even further.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I thought that was like a big leap in logic, you know what I mean? But Nick, you were going to say something about that?
Yeah, but I also think that, because there's a scene where she kind of dresses down one of her shithead cousins, and just breaks down his entire character. Is like, yeah, you're just a bitch, essentially. And I think a lot of that is just hinting that, yeah, she is force sensitive and possibly even stronger than Luke.
Yeah, I mean, I got with that scene. I got with the kid. I think, yeah, like you see some force kind of sensitivity, which Leia is. You know what I mean? She is. You even saw that weird, creepy CGI they did in what was it, Rise of Skywalker, where they was training with Luke. You saw that little that kind of.
Actually, didn't think that. I didn't think that CG looked bad, especially because you had Billy Lord playing.
Okay. Dust, what were you saying?
Oh, canonically, she is force sensitive, and she does learn some abilities and what was once the EU, but Luke was still the strongest Jedi at that time, like in raw power, just overall. But Leia's no joke as a character in the EU. She does learn some tricks of the trade, but I was just it is interesting to see her in that, but that did feel a little forced to me, especially with her cousin. That was like a whole like, oh, Justin down, whatever, and she's just like, in other ways, I'm like, she would have had a wittier line than that. Young Leia should have had a way wittier line. Should have been much more quicker and should have cut him deeper instead of doing a whole dressing down. That's kind of there, but Carrie Fisher had that panazz about her and always had that like quick wit to her, and she's like, that should have just been like a quick wit smack, kind of like a leave a whatever and then walk away.
I think that's something. That's something that I think you like develop as you get older.
Yeah,
it's like you're much wittier and funnier when you're like 20 versus then.
Cool. So you believe that a child can go through a long list of all the way dressing down, but like I can understand you building up to having quick wit and having charm, absolutely. But I also don't believe that a 10-year-old can just go on a quick dressing down after meeting them for like one time. I'm like.
Well, I think
that's a little much. Just a little too much.
If you can read minds, then.
I think she met him more than one time because they are cousins. So I think they've met each other.
Yeah,
more than
I think again, if we had any more preparation or a little bit more on this, I could have believed that a bit. But it's such a quick scene, such a quick thing that it's almost like, God, this didn't even need to be here. We could have just. Whatever.
And to me, those are the weak. At least the first episode, because the entire time I was just every time we cut back to Alderaan, I was just like, can we get back to Tatooine? And
I'm here for Kenobi.
Can we just get back to Tatooine? Which is the only time I've ever said that about Star Wars.
You know what? They saved a lot of money from Now I understand why Book of Boba Fett took place on Tatooine. I understand this now. I understand why they didn't actually do what they should have done with his character. It's because they had to save. They had to save on buildings and stuff so they could do it for Kenobi. Though Disney's smart, they used their same sets for another show. I'll give them that.
And when Kenobi finally goes and leaves Tatooine and heads to this place. What was that? Do you remember the name of the city that it was? I don't remember the name of it.
It doesn't matter.
It's a Star Wars city. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little like cyberpunk type looking city or whatever. More.
See, if they had the colored Vespas, that would have been fine to have those characters there. Yeah. That makes sense for them in that kind of environment.
Well, there was even
not so much Tatooine.
A character that walked up to him selling spice that even
kind of looks like it.
It kind of looked like a character that was in Boba Fett there. It even looked a little
that's fine. That would have fit for that kind of environment because it's a hub colony, which means it's a trading colony, which means you're going to get a bunch. It's like a rest stop. Only a long drive, and you're going places. And you're like, rest stop here. That's basically what that is. It's a giant rest stop that people also reside in. You're gonna. People travel and come back and leave and go everywhere.
Yeah. So I thought that was
kind of get all these mixes of cultures.
Yeah, because that was kind of more of a city. Like Tatooine is more like the country, I guess you would say, or something like that.
Oh yeah, it's in the outer rim.
Yeah.
They even say it at one point. Tatooine's on the outer rim. It is in non-Empire jurisdiction area.
Yeah, it's in the fucking boonies.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, people like marry their cousin and stuff like that. That's what kind of happens in Tatooine.
Remember that lady who was just like. we live in the outer rims. The Empire doesn't have any whatever. And it's just like, oh, it's like anyone else. That cut was actually really that cat cut. That was a really bad. That was actually a really bad editing cut because he knows cut hand, no pain, no sound, whatever, and they're just moving on. We are not hurt to here to whatever. I'm like, you just cut off.
You literally just cut off someone's hand.
And secondly, I know the Hutts don't really care about the average day people, but the Hutts are technically running to Tatooine at this time, and I would be pretty concerned if the Empire just sent a bunch of Inquisitors and didn't inform me about it and hurt one of my workers.
Yeah,
I gotta pay that out now.
It also, what are the Hutts gonna do against the Inquisitors?
You have enough.
What are they really gonna do?
I don't know if you send enough clones or send enough mercenaries. We saw how that worked out for the Jedi temples. Pretty damn sure if you send enough, you're gonna get a Jedi.
Yeah, but that worked because the Jedi weren't expecting. That's why Order 66 worked the way it did, because they trusted the clones. They didn't expect a betrayal like.
Hey man, if you really want to take an Inquisitor out, hire Boba Fett. Or IG-88.
And I don't think this Boba Fett.
Whatever.
I don't think Boba Fett from this Disney Plus.
I'm talking EU Boba Fett. I'm talking old school Boba Fett.
Yeah.
OT trilogy. He didn't start really working for he did whatever was taken in him. If someone's getting out of line, he takes the money.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think when Kenobi, when he shows up, kind of in the city and everything like that, I think that's very good. You see kind of that. You see this different kind of aspect other than Tatooine, which is nice. Also, you see a nice cameo from Tamir Morrison, who comes in as the clone. We see somebody made a funny post on Twitter. They said, I guess veteran affairs are still terrible, no matter the any part of the
VA sucks.
You know what?
Actually sucks anywhere you go.
When they said here for a veteran, I actually went, you know what? He has the blue stripes, clone armor, and everything. I did laugh at that a little bit. I'm like, yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
Empire doesn't give a shit about the clones.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah,
I laughed in like a sad way, like it kind of hurt. I was like,
and you see that kind of another good kind of acting moment from Ewan McGregor, that immediate look kind of on his face of like, you know what I mean, just like, oh wow, you know what I mean, of like
this motherfucker,
So I thought that was also kind of another good moment there. And when Obi-Wan goes to save Princess Leia, like I said, the fact that her leap of logic is also, like I said, I think is a little too much. And also just her interactions with Ewan McGregor. Ewan McGregor does a good job. Because I think he's just one of those actors where you pair him up with anybody, I think he'll do a good job.
He's one of those actors. He's one of those actors where you pair him up with just about anybody, and he's gonna elevate just by the nature of you interacting, because he has so much like presence and charisma that you look better just interacting.
Yeah. And I think some of the stuff with, like, when she runs away and the little stuff when she has dialogue with him. Again, I think that's a little too like how Hollywood sees kids, maybe, or tries to make them like overly, you know what I mean? Like I said, kind of,
precocious and rambunctious.
Yeah. So I thought that was a little.
I'm kind of there too, but for me, it worked more than it did.
Okay. All right. And then to see Kumail Nanjiani's character, what'd you all think of Kumail Nanjiani coming in here?
He's a fun comedic bit, and something that I think fits in the realm of Star Wars, where it's like, of course, Jedi are mostly extinct, so you're probably going to get con men like that preying on people for their cash.
Dusk.
But even then, I actually come to that turn that he took.
All right. Dusk, what kind of your thoughts on Kumail Nanjiani?
Yeah. So him actually creating a con for Jedi stuff in the Empire is totally tracks. Can definitely see that going on. The minute he did all that, I'm like, it's a good show. All right, I see what he's doing before he revealed his hand. How Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan handles it is also great.
It's a great comedic bit.
It's a nice little moment where both characters he sees the real deal, and he's looking at it. The heel turn that the guy has, though, I agree with Nick. I'm like, all right, man, why you have no reason to we haven't set you enough to have like a character heel turn. Not everyone can be Bill Burr, okay, in The Mandalorian. Not everyone can have a character set up.
But for me, that heel turn worked because you take it in context. Yeah, he's taking money from vulnerable people, but he's also getting him off this really dangerous planet.
Yeah. If we had like one more scene, if we had like one little scene with him, like he was like dragging him, like, "Hey, go here." He's like, "You sure you're here?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, you gotta go up there. You gotta do this." He's like, and then like Obi-Wan's about to go, "No, don't go there. You go like kind of like don't like what are you an idiot? Don't go. You gotta go there." And then like they keep like Obi-Wan just kind of points the gun back at him. It's like, I'm just saying, you wouldn't want to do that. Whatever. We had like one little scene like that, and just kind of show he does sort of mean well and doesn't want to waste his time. But he's also like, hey, like don't do anything suicidal, okay? I just like money, but I also don't want to send people to their deaths. That at least would have been a better setup. So then that we see that moment, I could believe it. Okay, all right, okay, he's trying to, because his excuse does make sense. I just needed to see it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of I think in small bits of the scene like that, it's challenging Obi-Wan's perceptions of, because he thinks just offhand, just meeting the guy the first time is like, oh, you're just robbing people of money and like faking being a Jedi. You're a fucking piece of shit.
Right.
And
he's like,
then
I did lead them to safety. They're a little poor. Like I did what.
Yeah, it's challenging a lot of being raised in the Jedi, because the Jedi are very black and white. It's like it's either all good or all, which was a huge thing back in the original trilogy and even the prequels.
Just refers to him as like you're just a criminal. Why should I trust you? And everything. Like you said, and Camille's character was he was getting people off the planet. Just he was taking a lot of money. I mean, he was just paying a lot of extra charge for it. I thought he was decent enough in it. Yeah.
I get the sense he was kind of a character where he could see what you were worth and how much you had, and he would get just as much as he could out of you.
He would take enough, but he would still like send you on your way with what you needed.
Right. Exactly. He's just like, I'm gonna get you to nearly completely spent, but enough to like an emergency amount. But I want all that up front now, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I thought he was kind of a decent addition to the show. The action in the show, it's nice to see a Jedi kind of use more than just the lightsaber. So to see Obi-Wan kind of do some kind of moves there. You can tell. I mean, he hasn't been doing any action for 10 years, so he's a little rusty. I mean, he hasn't moved a little old. And then
which more action movies take a fucking a page from this. Let your protagonist get his ass kicked once in a while.
Yeah, Disney Plus bringing in the hallway. They got the Netflix shows, Marvel. They bringing in the hallway fights there, and it was. I thought it was well choreographed. That was decent enough. I mean, it wasn't too flashy, but I thought it was pretty solid. Even the blasters, when you see, because when he goes to his plan, they find that Obi-Wan Kenobi's there. The Inquisitor sends Reva sends all these bounty hunters after him, and even with the stuff with the blasters. I thought was really good too. So to see him kind of use
like
different,
the Tyrannosaurus with a bazooka.
Yeah, like something that
Tyrannosaurus,
something
T-Rex with a minigun.
Jurassic Park, like this Jurassic Park looking creature, kind of comes up as one.
I was like, you know what? If that's a Steven Spielberg reference, that tracks for Star Wars.
That's cool.
Yeah, I thought that's what I thought too. I was like, that was pretty nice. I thought these 2 episodes were okay for me. And kind of a good introduction to kind of what we're gonna get.
Same here. I think the first 2 episodes are a solid introduction. I'm looking for the season, but the highlight of it was that whole like cat and mouse game in the stacks of that warehouse at the end of episode 2, and she name drops Lord Vader, and you see that realization on Obi-Wan's face and Gregor's acting.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I killed him.
Do you all think that was a mistake by having her know that Anakin is Darth Vader? Some people say that's a mistake. Dusk.
I would say it's kind of a mistake. Yeah.
I would maybe not. But if it works in a dramatic moment like that, I can forgive it.
So, the only people who knew Anakin Skywalker was Darth Vader was the Emperor, Grand Moff Tarkin, and a very select few, select close people to the Emperor would know that. I don't believe an Inquisitor at her rank. I don't even believe most of the Inquisitors even knew any of that. They just knew Darth Vader was Darth Vader. He was basically a completely new individual that was a Lord of the Sith. Like, who's going to challenge the Emperor on that? It also also an issue with the Inquisitors. A lot of the Empire's business was dealt through subtlety, and you only ever trace yourself back to the Emperor unless you were in a very unique circumstance and you had proven yourself to be completely loyal to his cause and proven to be clever, and he could control you. You would get the mark of the Emperor on you, and you'd be part of a cult and a sect, because he wanted to keep it close to the chest, and it was much more about subterfuge, and like anything else was with the Empire straight. They used routes, and Inquisitors were used only in rare circumstance, and just if they knew they were going for a Jedi. But they didn't just have carte blanche to do whatever they wanted, because that would upset planets, and planets had their own things, and the Empire, they had an iron grip. They also, if you go on the Outer Rim and start causing trouble, you might get an Outer Rim rebellion, and the last time that worked, that caused the Republic to fall. And the Empire never completely took over the Outer Rim.
Yeah, so, but you also get the sense that Reva is working outside of
far outside.
Far out. That she's basically gone rogue in order to accomplish her mission. And I think they could explain how she found out over the course of the series, but I also think that would just take precious time away from this main story that they're telling, because you kind of have a little bit of the Marvel.
I would have liked it that you save that reveal to a little bit later, and she doesn't know at first. She's just gung ho for Kenobi, and that's the final lure, the bait. She finds it out by doing what she does, and by taking over that guy's access. That head Inquisitor might have abilities to look at areas that otherwise, and she goes full rogue, and that's where it gets the final bait, and that's when it becomes more serious. Oh, I can draw him out. Not just with that. I can draw him something deeper, and that's when it gets Darth Vader involved, and Darth Vader is pissed, and Reva gets her butt kicked because he's the Lord of the Sith.
Yeah, we're promised that we're getting Vader in his prime.
He's his thing.
Yeah. So some people saying that. I don't know. Maybe revealed later in episodes why she knows that information. I don't know. Some people also mentioned that. I mean, this is the first 2 episodes, so maybe that information will come later.
I just felt that could have been saved for episode 4.
Yeah.
If it's like a 6-episode format, you could have saved that for 3 or 4 or something.
I mean, if she found the connection between Organa and Obi-Wan, then it's probably not that big of a leap to guess Darth Vader and Anakin.
Except that kind of jeopardizes some things in the whole secret, because even Anakin doesn't know. But I don't. Yeah, that's going into even more, and it's not important.
Also, as far as revenue, she was just kidnapping Organa's. That I'm guessing.
I just think that would have been a great way of showing she's done all this research, and then she's going to dig even further now that she has access. At least that's how I would have gone about it. I mean, she's gone this far at this point. Once she does that to once she does what she does at the end of episode 2, you're kind of like, well, you just officially cut ties.
Yeah. One final thing I want to mention. Some people said that this kind of series kind of ruins canon because Reva ends up killing the Grand Inquisitor.
Inquisitor. That definitely changes canon.
Well, when is Rebels set? Because I know the main villains in Star Wars. When is that set? Is that like earlier than the series, or is
it is set around?
I think it's I think Kenobi's before, because if A New Hope is 10 years later, and then because Obi-Wan shows up in Rebels as old Obi-Wan,
he does
as Gray.
Older Obi-Wan, so it's much closer to that. So this happens before that.
Yeah, but isn't there like a time jump in Rebels?
Yeah. Yeah, there is a time jump in Rebels. So I don't know. I have to see what the whole kind of timeline was with that. Yeah, but some people say it was kind of running continuity with the Grand Inquisitor.
Okay. If I'm going to be completely honest here, they've been ruining continuity from a while.
Yeah,
I just have fun just pointing it out.
Yeah,
like, I'm not even mad anymore. I just point it out just because I notice. And that's different than this, and that's not that. Okay.
And then some people said that he may not be dead because you did have a dude who got cut in half and then he came back. So
that is true. We did have a dude who cut back and came back.
Yeah, I mean, if you can bisect a person and have him come, unless I don't know, you cut a motherfucker's head off.
They're not coming back with the head.
Yeah.
Although, depending on the will of the Force,
they brought back Darth Vader. Just have like an entire Futurama heads in jar.
No, I mean, you think I'm kind of joking. There was a Jedi who could breathe in space briefly. He could hold his breath in space, like for a couple of minutes, just with the Force alone. And there was a character, I think, in the extended lore who got their head removed, and like just with the will of the Force survived.
Wow. On
something. So
I mean, we do have a Superman.
So I don't think that was necessarily canon. But that was in a work at one point. I might be making that part up, but they've done some ridiculous stuff.
That's definitely not canon anymore. But we also have Superman Leia.
Yeah, which I don't like, anyways. Oh, look, he got stabbed in the chest, which was also cauterized. So I bet you his buddies are gonna find him, and they're gonna be like, "What?
Get him in the Bacta.
Yeah, get him in the Bacta chamber."
Any final thoughts, Dusk? What you think of the first 2 episodes? You've been one of the more harsher people on the Disney Star Wars stuff.
I am harsh on things that I love. I am a big. I really enjoyed the original trilogy. They were a fun sci-fi fantasy show. The prequels had potential, but just didn't have the proper execution. At least the movies wise, Clone Wars did it better. Tarkovsky's 2D as well did it better. The video games for the most part are fun, but this feels like what I've come to expect with a lot of Disney Plus stuff. It is fairly mediocre. It's pretty okay. There's some bright spots in some of the characters acting. Ewan McGregor, he's able to carry a lot of this on his shoulders. I mean, he's gonna get a horrible back injury from the amount of weight he's gonna be carrying with this show, and because he really is carrying a lot of it. This show is like a lot of other shows that are kind of mediocre. They're gonna have high moment. This is made to be on YouTube highlights compilation to combine all the best parts of all the interactions between a specific character. And it will trick people to thinking, oh, yeah, that was a pretty... these were really great parts. Yeah, the show itself wasn't that great, but these parts were really good. And I feel like if you can go through 6 episodes of a show and only 11 or 15 minutes is like the highlights, but that's the kind of vibe I'm getting. This is going to be made for highlight YouTube videos later. And for that, I'll be more than happy to check out if Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor reunion as Vader and Obi-Wan. Why not, man? Why not? Fuck it, who cares?
All right.
It's dead anyways.
Well, I mean, we're gonna be talking about another Disney Plus show coming up, Star Wars coming up.
Yeehaw.
All right.
Yeehaw.
So that was our Kenobi discussion there, the first 2 episodes. We'll be keeping track, reviewing episodes every week of the show. All right.